Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session of Taking Hills Foundation Tech Talks. My name is Notando Makakula, and I'm the chairperson of Taking Hills as well as a mentor of Taking Hills. So today's session for me is actually kind of exciting because I get to sit down with my fellow women in STEM and we get to discuss some myths. Welcome everybody to another session of Taking Hills Foundation Tech Talks. My name is Notando Makakula. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today I'm actually quite excited for this particular tech talk. I get to sit down with women who are actually in STEM and we get to discuss different myths, and you'll get to hear some of the realities we face and some myths are just myths, So thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe. We want to make sure that these tech talks that we have are very engaging, and so we'd love to hear from each and every one of you. So thank you so much for joining in. Today's topic, we're going to be discussing the myths and the realities of working in STEM careers as women. So I'm hoping that you get inspired. I'm hoping that you get to have some light into what we actually have to deal with as women in STEM. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slot in the different women who are going to be on this talk today. I'm actually very excited because some of them I've worked with them. So I'm going to bring them in. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Nathan. How are you?
Oh, well, and yourself. So I'm gonna bring all the ladies, and then everybody can start introducing themselves. Hi, ladies, you're live.
Hi. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting to be part of this session. I think this type of topic for me always is if it's just one we have in our own small corridors. It's definitely talks that it's a narrative that we as women want to put across out there. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to introduce yourselves. So I'm going to start with you, Angela.
No pressure. My name is Angela. I am a software developer and I'd say aspiring blogger. So I have a young blog on Medium where I talk about either technical things that I really struggled with or sort of the emotional aspect of the tech industry, either faced as a woman or just in general. Yeah. Okay. So that is me. Yeah.
So we're going to ask that after this talk, you're going to leave a link for us that we can post on this so that people can actually start reading your blog.
Yes, I'll do that for you. I got you.
All right. Okay.
Hi, my name is Buhle Sihlali. I work for one of the big 6 petroleum companies in the country. I'm a chemical engineer by profession. I'm also studying my master's degree in engineering management, hopefully to finish by the end of this year. At work, I work as an asset management analyst. Basically, we look after the assets, the equipment that produces petrol and your diesel to make sure that every customer has petrol. We are able to fly. So my role is to make sure that we do projects that enable us to keep our equipment running and for future investments and business development as well. And my hobbies, I'm a runner. I love sports. I'm a marathon runner. And I also love cooking and traveling. That's about me.
Nice. All right. Nomfundo, you're up.
Hi, guys. My name is Nomfundo Nkosi. I am an automation engineer by profession. I'm also a food blogger or vlogger, rather. I've got an Instagram page called Nono's Kitchen. And I'm also a recent YouTuber. I've started my own YouTube channel called Life of a Professional, where I give insights on navigating corporate. And what else do I do? I've recently also started an initiative called Technicalities, where it's just creating a safe space for women to discuss and to grow each other, basically, and empower each other in these STEM careers. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll also make sure that you also leave a link for those who actually want to follow your page as well as you on social media. Thank you so much, lady. So I want to get what do we say, the red tape out of the way, right? So the disclaimer here is that the opinions and the views expressed in this talk are those of the speakers. Please, they do not purport to reflect the opinions or the views of the companies or the entities they work for. So now that we've got the technicalities out of the way, all right. So today's talk, what's different about it is that I wanted to make it a little bit exciting. So what we have is that you'll see that each woman is going to hold up either something that says reality or something that says myth, right? So we're trying to we call mythbusters today, I guess. So we're gonna put up a specific myth, and each woman is going to explain: is it a myth to them or is it a reality to them? So, and we're gonna sort of engage on that particular myth and see what is each woman's experience on this particular myth. So, without further ado, I'm going to put up the first myth, and the first myth says women are still underrepresented in various STEM fields. All right, ladies, hold up your cards. What is
Reality.
reality?
Fact.
Fact.
Nothing.
Actually, no one's protected. I'm gonna first. I'm gonna shoot it to you first. What do you think? I'm gonna shoot it to you first.
Who?
We're struggling to hear you.
Oh, is it Angela?
Okay, there we go. So, literally, just recent studies have shown that women in STEM careers make up 23% of the people that are hired there. And even just, I can only maybe speak for technology in particular. There's so many meetings where you're the only girl in the room. Or even just once there was I think a company X, let's say, literally I had asked them, how many female developers do you guys have? And they literally said to me, we haven't had one in 2 years. So I'm just like, how do you not have a female developer in 2 years? It's just very, yeah, I think it's pure fact.
Yeah. And actually, only to add on to that, me and you actually worked on a specific project. You know,
I do remember this, yeah.
and we so just quick, I'm thinking someone's mic is making noise. So can the others mute? And then when I tell you when you can unmute.
Okay.
I'm hearing some interference there. Okay, thank you. So myself and Angela actually worked on a project together. That's where we actually met. And we were working on a certain project where we were doing robotics automation. And I think we were the only 3 females. It was myself, you, and another lady, right?
Yes, yes.
And
And it was a full room. It was like overcrowded. It was overpopulated. It was doing the most in terms of number of people in that room, and yet we were literally it was just us.
yes.
Yeah.
Just join. I'm just looping in Veronica. She's one of our Taking Heels mentors. She's also a woman in STEM, so we'll also be engaging in a conversation with her. Hi, Veronica.
Hi. How are you?
Well, and yourself. So I was just saying to the ladies, unless I'm speaking to you, can you mute your mic so that we don't have any interferences there?
All right.
Yeah. Yes. We were literally 3 females over a bunch of males, and I think half of the time they forgot that we were females because the conversations that were being had there were not conducive an environment that had females working in there.
True,
So
true.
I think when it comes to saying that women are still underrepresented in various STEM fields, more especially in tech, more especially in the developing side, it's definitely very right.
Yeah.
Which, on your side, as a chemical engineer, what is your opinion with regards to this?
Yes. On my side, my opinion is that yes, it's still a reality, unfortunately, especially in senior positions, where decisions needs to be taken, you see less of women. You can start as a lot of graduates, maybe there's a 50-50 representation, but as you climb up into senior positions, you find that there's less women, and you ask yourself, what happened to all the women in engineering? They sort of like disappear as the position climb up. The companies are trying to close that gap. You find in some of their KPIs, they will write down that maybe by year 2025, for example, we need to have a representation of maybe 10% of women in leadership positions, or women in engineering. But come that year, you find that the KPI has not been met as yet. They are still struggling to pull up women into those positions. And for me, I think it's very important for women to be in those senior positions, because quite a number of times you find out that you are the only female in the room. I mean, I've worked with the refinery whereby you attend meetings, and these are technical decisions that needs to be made. For example, you're doing a HAZOP study where you need to go through all the loops of the plant, but you are the only female in the room. So that's still reality.
Definitely. And from your side, Nomfundo, what are your experiences with regards to this?
I think Bushle and Angela have encapsulated it properly, because I agree with the only female in the room. I've been through that a number of times. Also in projects that were even outside of corporate, where I found myself being the only female there. And I think that is the best example that we can make, that a number of times we end up being literally the only females in the room. And that means that there's clearly a gap, that needs to be filled. But as Bushle said, there are companies that are being intentional about including women in STEM careers, hiring women, and it just a lot more needs to be done. As much as we've started, yes, I think a lot of more companies need to be intentional about intaking women, whether as graduates or whatever the case may be. But we definitely need more women in. If my mom 20 years ago was an only woman in an engineering meeting, and here I am, I've started working, and I'm also still the only woman in the room in technical meetings, then that means there is a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
There is.
Yeah. Veronica, on your side, can you just introduce yourself and say what you do, so that at least our viewers know that when you come to
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Veronica, and I'm in the environmental management field. And what we do is usually your EIAs when you have engineering projects in the mining areas, and as well as the foundries. And from my side, I think the number of women in my career are increasing.
That's good.
Yeah, and it's not, maybe it's a 30 70 different, well, 30% women and 70% male, but I think it's increasingly becoming better for women to be in that kind of field, because it's not a very technical field. It's just more scientific and more research based, more consulting, as opposed to like technical work. So I think from my side, there's an increasing number of women that are working within that career line. And yeah.
All right. So we're going to shoot straight to our next myth. So this one says that women are not interested in having careers in tech. Let's see. Angela.
She has a different opinion.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna actually let you think out. I'm gonna let you think out.
So when people discuss interest in technology, they're more it's not just an intrinsic interest that we need to discuss. We also need to talk about the fact that there are so many factors involved within interest. So it's whether or not, so people might fear the sexism in the industry. People might fear or might not know of the representation within the industry. So those things play a role within your interest of entering the field. So it's not just, oh, this doesn't interest me, therefore I will not do it. There are so many factors that actually influence your interest in a field. And I think that those factors that sort of sway women away from the industry are really, really large. And that's why I think that a lot of women might not be interested. There was like actually a study done by Microsoft that some women from the age of 11 are really, some girls are interested at that young age, but somewhere along the lines within their late teens, they sort of start to lose an interest. And that is sometimes attributed to the fact that there are no sort of representations. Who do you look up to other than sort of, I forget her name, the chick from Wakanda. Who else? Who's your role model within this industry? There's really isn't much representation of women in STEM careers. So, I mean, why would you even want to sort of put yourself through that? And also, if you know of, if you hear of a lot of sexism within the industry, you're not going to unprovoked go towards something that's just going to put you through turmoil. So I think those are, there are large factors that are playing into interest of careers in STEM, not necessarily an intrinsic interest where you say, I am interested in this and I will go forth. But there are factors that play, I guess. That is why I think so.
Okay.
Forgive me, please. I just...
No, I think that now that you've touched on the fact that there are not enough women in STEM, right? Mentors. I'm going to shoot straight to the third myth, right? And so the myth says that there are not enough women in STEM that are actually mentors, right? And I'm also going to say that's a reality. Right? And I always, for example, make, when people ask me, who do I look up to? Why did I find myself in tech, right? I have a story about when I go to my dad's workplace when I was still like in grade 7, whenever there were school holidays. There was a specific lady that was always there. She was the tech lady, right? Something breaks, the network is down or whatever, they would call her, right? So I got interested in seeing her just solve problems. But when I actually started growing up and started looking deep into, actually, is there anybody that looks like me that actually is interested in what I'm interested in terms of tech? And it was very hard for me to drill down into that. But what I'm happy about is to see that the fact that we've got 5 women right here, right now, who are engaging in a conversation like this, we are paving the way for the next generation. They have people to look up to. But unfortunately, when we were growing up and finding ourselves in STEM careers, we don't necessarily have somebody who looks like us. And I mean in all forms, where you don't have somebody who can say, this one grew up the way I grew up, this one encountered this or encountered that, and I can find inspiration in that. You know, I still look up to Mark Zuckerberg because I think he's a genius, but I'm not going to get into that. But you see that I'm looking up to a white male. So for me to say it's a reality that there are not enough women in STEM who are actually mentors is actually a real thing. So Buhle, on your side, what do you think?
Yes, this takes me back to my point of saying that there's not a lot of women in STEM careers who are in leadership positions because have you had those women in such leadership positions, then we'll have mentors that we look up to. But even myself, most of my mentors have been males in the engineering field. Although even from first year, we start as a lot of ladies who are in the engineering class, But as time goes, even the number of graduates who graduate, you find that there's more males who graduate at the end of the fourth year versus females. And then in the workplace, again, you find such dynamics. So yes, there isn't much really. Even in position leaders at work, you find that the technical roles really are held by males, and there isn't a lot of female leaders who can be mentors to the young girls. We did
Okay.
try. I remember during my graduate years, whereby we used to have drives, and we used to have the take a girl child to work, and we'll actually invite some of the students from high school, starting from grade 10, to actually come into our workplace. We'll actually do some presentation. We'll take them around the plant. We'll also have Q&A sections, and also invite different leaders from different departments, so that they can have questions and then they get all the exposure that they need. And then as time went by, we also started to include the boys as well. So that was just another way of trying to mentor the girls from an early childhood, even from high school upwards, before they can make decisions as to which career they want to follow at varsity.
All right. Nomfundo, what do you think?
This is true, of course, and as Busha and Angela also have mentioned, that the higher up you go in corporate, the less females there are, and this may be because of numerous reasons as to why they might have left. Some women feel like they can't handle it, and they go for less technical career paths or roles after that, and it's a major problem. It's a major problem. And I don't know what it is that, okay, well, I do know what it is, but just corporates aren't really allowing, or we haven't found a way as females to maneuver around technical spaces. I've been lucky enough, though, to be exposed to female technical mentors that are great. They are amazing. And I just wonder how the technical space would be if we had more of them, you know. And
Yeah.
I think this is why I was as well, or touched to start technicalities, because I was like, the power that women can bring in spaces or technical spaces where they are leading is impeccable, man. Like we've got an amazing group of women that start off but fall off along the way, because it's rare. Like if I were to ask you, have you seen a female tech lead? I personally, I haven't, you know. I've seen them high up though, but a female technical lead in very close spaces where I work, it's rare, and would like to see more of those. And I think that's where people then will start, or females will start getting motivated to want or to sort for that type of role in technical spaces. But I've started, when I mentor grads when they come into technical spaces, I always refer to them as technical leads, you know, just to show them that it is possible and it is a doable thing, and then they start seeing themselves in those positions as well. Because that's the problem. If I'm always seeing a male technical lead, I'll never think I could be one, you know. Maybe I'd want to be in the position, but I don't know how to get there because I don't see a representation of a female technical lead around me. And yeah, so I just think we need to change the narrative. We need to speak these things out more and tell people that are all females that are in technical spaces that they can fill those roles as well, and they can really do well in them too.
Yeah, no, definitely. So on to our next myth, right? Women in tech fields or leadership position really still face a fear of judgment for being overly emotional. Right. Who am I gonna shoot it to? Who is needy of this?
Me. I've got a story on this
You have
one.
a okay.
Yes.
Then you go,
It's
Gucci.
it's a personal experience, you know, and in the STEM careers, you are told quite often that you must man up. Um,
Ooh.
Yep, and if you don't man up, you're not gonna make it. And if you're showing any sign of weakness, or maybe of any emotions, you are presumed as someone who's very weak. And
Mm.
you know, sometimes I think emotions are needed because some decisions they need to show compassion, of which in most cases some males they don't have that compassion, or some people, because they say no, this is corporate, we're not running charity. But have you considered other people's emotions in the decision making or how they feel? And also, for example, we were working on a project whereby we were moving offices, and in one of the sessions that we had as the focus groups, we asked, is there any parking for pregnant women? It's something that is not a norm in most buildings, but there wasn't. And we asked, can you please include parking for pregnant women in the new building that we will be occupying? And that was taken into consideration. And now we have parking for pregnant women as well. So yeah, that's a story for me. And we do face that fear of being judged as being overly emotional. Sometimes a term has been used on me, being where my boss once said to me, "You are a typical stubborn Xhosa woman." So I found that,
Ooh.
yep, I found that as a very tribalist and a sexist comment.
Definitely.
But yeah, but what do you do? Do you go to HR? You report on that? What are they really going to do about it? So you just swallow it and man up, as they say. Otherwise, you'll be seen as you're being overly emotional. You're thinking things too much. No, we're just joking. You know, such terms, they just yeah, they're used very loosely like that.
Some moments, because I think personally as well, I've had situations where the type of things that you're saying get said to me as well. So I think with my experience in tech, I have gotten to the level where I'm a bit sometimes deemed as aggressive. And I think it's based on the experiences that I've had, you know, because I'm running away from being deemed as overly emotional. So I have to counteract it with something else. So I counteract it with a very tough skin that sometimes it's deemed as stubborn, you know. And I think that I know for sure that some of the things that get said to us as women, whether it's being emotional or whatever, I know that our male counterparts are not receiving that type of flack, you know, and I really hope that the narrative gets changed, because if, for example, what Angela was saying, that when women actually think of being interested in careers in tech or in STEM, they think of all these things that actually are outside of your role, right? They're outside of what your technical abilities can do, but it's everything that has to do with dealing with a boss who has snide comments, dealing with colleagues who have snide comments. You know, we need to do away with those type of conversations. So what I've done is that I to heckle and say that no, this is unacceptable, this I don't appreciate, you know, because I think the more we keep quiet about these things, the more that people just keep thinking it's okay to say that. And the just joking comment, I actually read an article one day that someone's boss had quite a sexist joke and told the team. And so the one lady in the team, she didn't laugh. She was like, okay, I don't get the joke. So all the men laughed. And she was like, no, I don't get the joke. Can you explain the joke to me? And as he explained, he stopped laughing. He realized that, oh, this is actually wrong, what we're actually laughing at. So I think the just joking part, we need to sometimes take people accountable for, okay, you're just joking, but can you explain it to me? What's so funny about you saying I'm a stubborn Xhosa woman? What does that mean? I don't know what it means. Explain it to me, you know? So, Yeah, that's why I had to woosa after you said that, because I was like, this is definitely something we constantly encounter. Angela, from your side?
I think I don't know if it's men or society or whatever. I think that the term emotional has just been used to gaslight women so much because it just completely invalidates your feelings towards what has happened. And even though it's a very valid emotion, just throwing that word emotional out there just completely just sort of makes you question yourself. It makes you doubt your own reality and say, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I really did it. Maybe that didn't happen, even though it really did happen. And I think that's just how people in this industry just skate by with just doing the bare minimum emotional intelligence work, to be honest. People's EQ is just close to zero, to be honest. And I think it's because of this gaslighting to say, oh, you're so emotional. And I don't know, also because I think maybe men are they're not socialized to understand their emotions or explore emotions. So they've just like suppressed it completely. And if you show any slight of discomfort, even just discomfort or feeling of this is inappropriate, and then it's just like, oops, no, shut it down, you're emotional. And then it's just, yeah. So I've never maybe just had a direct you're so emotional comment, but it is something that I genuinely fear where even though even though I'm fully aware that what you're saying to me is utter nonsense, I cannot react accurately. I always sort of have to calm down, just really take it, basically. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move on to the next myth. And this one says, and I'm going to shoot it to Nomfundo because you actually spoke about this, and that women are not as technical and are not as proficient technical leaders in various fields. Is this a reality or a myth? All right. Nomfundo.
This is a definite myth. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. And it needs to stop. And I think as we even join technical corporate spaces, this is an attitude that people carry and that they throw onto us. And we start seeing ourselves that way too, you know. And it's so unfortunate that it affects our careers so much because you spend so much time now digging and trying to put in extra work to become more technical and to be seen as proficient in certain skills. You know, it's such an unfair atmosphere that is created in the spaces that we work in, and we have to be so intentional in working out of it. And it's so unfortunate that we even feel that we need to put in so much more effort just to reach the level of the men or our male counterparts in working environments, you know. And we speak about this a lot with fellow technical friends, you know. And yeah, it's just we need to work on our confidence levels as technical women. We need to stretch ourselves, I guess, at this point, just to make sure that we are able to voice out as well. You know, we're able to voice out all the things that we know technically as well, because that's what it is. Sometimes it becomes a tennis experience where men go on about their technical experience, and usually this results in imposter syndrome to us, you know, and you sitting there like, oh, I don't know about that. But you know, I guess whenever you hear something, go out, step out, read about it, learn about it, ask someone, a friend probably knows, you know. And even if you do know, you'll find that females actually know this particular topic that is at hand, but they won't even share their views because no one is even turning to ask them, because it's so expected that females actually don't have knowledge about certain technologies and so forth. So it's tiring. And as I've said, or as I've mentioned, I have been exposed to females that are extremely technical and are doing so well in leadership positions. I wish I could mention her name, but she's like the greatest technical lead I've ever met, and she basically uses technology in her management role because you find that as people move up into more managerial roles, they sort of stop doing technical work. She literally uses it as part of her work. If she has reports that she wants to pull out, she'll write code to make sure that she can get whatever, statistics or whatever information or data that she wants from whatever that she has. She's incorporated technology so much into her management position, and it's so great to watch. And I wish that a lot more women could be exposed to that, so that they don't shy away from technical positions or roles, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you actually had an example of a woman who's actually in a technical role. I think in the positions that I've worked in, where I've had to have somebody report to a female, I think there's always a misconception that you need to be at a particular, you need to be at a particular level. There's some sort of EQ that if you're too technical, you won't understand. So sometimes you find that the people you report to are always more on the people skill side and not as technical. But I really think that we need to do away with that, because I think if we are in these positions as women, and if I'm technical, if I want to take it all the way where I'm a CEO of a particular company, and if I want to write code to make my life easy, we should be afforded that opportunity to do that. From your side, Veronica, from your side of things in terms of environment. We can't hear you, Veronica.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I'm saying from our side, we do have a lot of technical things that we do in the environmental field, which, for example, is a lot of GIS work, which is very technical. And I think there's a lot of women within that field, because you need a lot of creativity as well as technical skills combined. And I think it really works out, and women actually do much better as technical leads within that kind of space. So I think we are very technical as women, and this is a definite myth from my side.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the next myth. And there's a misconception that you have to be good in math or science to be in a STEM role. I don't know how to answer this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I think from my side, I know that. So I'm not so great at maths, but I'm okay, right? But I do know that with a lot of the stuff that we find ourselves doing, you do need to sort of apply your mathematical mind to it. That's the reality side. But there's also the myth side, is that there are other areas, for example, in tech, that you don't have to be so a maths guru, or you don't have to be a science guru, that you can actually find yourself into. For example, working and being a business analyst, you don't have to be too technical. So it's a bit of both as well. You can understand the people side and you can understand a bit of the technical side. So that's why on my side, it's also half and half. Angela?
I think with this one, so I agree with you on the myth aspect of it, that there's certain parts, let's say in particular in technology, that you don't have to have maths in it. But I mean, if you're really, and also the reality side of it is that literally mathematics is in the acronym, so you cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
And a lot of science fields apply mathematical concepts to it. So if let's say if you want to be a computer scientist for one, you definitely are going to need mathematics. But if you want to be, I think even with programming, you can maybe skate by without knowing that much mathematics, but because programming and computer science to me are completely separate things. Whereas programming, you can maybe design an app or make a website or things like that, versus computer scientists, which is proper just trying to optimize things, either using distributed computing. And there's careers within computer science like computer vision, machine learning, artificial intelligence. All of these things require a very just solid understanding of mathematics. So you really just can't get away from it. But there are fields within technology that you can go by without really having without having mathematics, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. On your side, Buhle, what do you think? Why is it half and half?
It's half and half, but I'm more on the reality side that no, it's having. I'm more on saying that you do need maths and science in the field. Like in our field, I don't see how one can survive really and not be technical if they don't have that maths and science backgrounds, because everyone that we work with, you must have an engineering degree. And it's even of more benefit if you're working, for example, with our finance support team that has engineering background. But now if you're working with a finance support team that doesn't have any understanding of the engineering fields and how things work, they always think things are linear, and that's not how it works. So hence it's important to have that maths and science background, because it helps quite a lot, and it makes you to be able to be competitive and to challenge all the technical questions that come about. Yeah. So that's why I'm 50-50. But I'm not saying that a person without experience, they can't do the work. Those ones are exceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we move on to our next myth. And this one says women need to downplay their capabilities and intelligence so that they don't intimidate their male counterparts. I want to go with you, Veronica, because you have a different opinion to all of us. Let's start with you. Let's hear from your side why you think it's a myth.
Well, I think that it's a myth because as soon as you downplay your intelligence, it puts you in a position where you can't even, do your work. They'll just ignore you and say that you can't do your work in the first place. So I don't think they need to well, maybe they have to because of how the situation and the corporate space is. But I don't think it's a need. You don't have to do that, and I don't think it's a good thing to do that, because you need to be heard. You need to put your intelligence first for it to be able to talk on your behalf. You can't, try to nurse other people's feelings, because that's just not going to work.
Yeah. I have different opinions on this one. And I think that sometimes what we deal with as women is that men tend to have pride and ego, right? It's sometimes it's a bit primitive as well, that sometimes they bring that into the workspace, because I once said that, our race, no gender, it knows no bounds. Knowledge is knowledge. The knowledge that my male counterpart has is the same knowledge that I have. But we find ourselves in the corporate spaces where sometimes you are stronger than your male counterpart, but because of the brohood that is there, you tend to not want to express yourself to say that actually I am better than you at that. And I know that it does, as Veronica is saying, it does come to our detriment, because we are also constantly fighting to say that I am valuable and I'm here because I'm meant to be here. But at the same time, I need to be cautious not to step on people's toes and hurt their egos. So it's sort of like a balance between saying that you're good, but also not stepping on people's toes and saying you're better than them. And yeah, that's just my experience. You came with your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add something or pose a question to the ladies. Then, don't we think it's about time? You spoke of a bro code, the male egos, the boys club, the brotherhood. Isn't it
Yeah.
time for us as ladies to also do the same thing? There's so much that we have in common. We go to spa dates, we do coffee, drinks. So those are avenues that we can also use, just like the males are also using. They talk sports on Mondays, they gather around. So for them, it's easier to uplift each other. So why can't we do the same thing as women as well? Use those same avenues, those same spaces. We always have lunch together to also uplift each other, just like the males are doing. Of course, also considering our capabilities, not just because you are my sister, but because you are able and you have the skills. But we use those as well to make decisions, just like the guys do.
Yeah. Nomfundo, I actually saw you heavy breathe. Oh, I cut Angela there. I'm sorry, Angela. Let me let's get
Okay, I think the problem with what Buhle is saying is that there's not enough women in teams and technical teams in our spaces, enough for us to pull that together. It's difficult, and half the time you find that women end up conforming and also watching sports so that she has a say on Monday when people are discussing scores. You end up having to conform and becoming the boys, and it's something that happens all the time. You also out here checking out girls when they pass by along with the guys in your team, because you just want to have a sense of a sense of belonging. It's unfortunate, and I hope that, and I just hope no woman ever has to downplay herself just to accommodate anyone, literally anyone, whether someone superior to them or even a male. Never ever downplay yourself or your intelligence or whatever just because you're trying to accommodate someone. That's just not right. And I hope one day women will find a space where they can just freely be themselves, man. It's really unfortunate that we have to now start dressing up like the boys. I know when I started work, I would come to work in heels. The first few days I came to work in heels and dresses. And as I started working, I looked around and the guys are out here in their sneakers and their jeans. I remember my second day at work having to leave work and go to the mall and go get myself sneakers and some jeans because I felt out of place. But it took me making a conscious decision to say, baby girl, that's not who you are. You're not every day I want to wear sneakers and jeans. So if you want to dress up to work and come sit down and code the whole day. If you want to code in heels, that's your decision that you're making and you will stick by it and not have to conform to what everyone else around you is doing.
Yeah. No, definitely. I totally agree. And I think that the whole being part of the boys club, sometimes, like I was saying, when myself and Angela were working on a project together, we found we had to sort of remove ourselves from the boys club and we would have our own moments. It seemed like we were antisocial, but it just made more sense for us to actually resonate with each other because of we could see the bromance happening, but we're like, you know what, we're gonna shine within this bromance and we're gonna have our own little thing going. So I do agree with you, Buhle, to say that we do need to also find spaces where we as women get to, and I also sympathize with Nomfundo as well, because as much as we want to get together, I mean, you can imagine if it's just two or it's just one, it may be a bit difficult. But I think that sometimes if it is two, find each other, make it work, And I think for me, my biggest challenge is that I've had to be in situations where I have people who are much older than me, right? So I've always had to sort of like mature, also to sort of resonate with the much older ladies that are already there in the tech spaces. But I think that with the current conversations that we're having right now, I'm hoping that we are inspiring as many people as we can, so that we can sort of, rewrite this narrative for ourselves, because I feel like our story as women always gets rewritten by others. That's why we have all these different myths. We are emotional. We need to downplay our capabilities. All those different types of things are stories and narratives written by others and not necessarily by ourselves. So I'm really hoping that we are able to change all these different narratives, so that we actually write our own stories. All right, let's move on to the next myth. Women are physiologically or in any other way predisposed to fail in STEM. What are you waiting for us, Nomfundo? You trying to bring a bumble cloud moment. And I think I'm gonna go with Veronica on this one. And this is just based on Veronica working a lot with heavy equipment, and just in your industry. How do you guys feel about this as women who work in construction and in mining?
I think there's a lot of men. Well, it depends, right? Because in my career, you have a whole lot of different things. For example, you could work in a foundry, right, which has a lot of men who do manufacturing and this and that and that. And then you have a part that deals with biodiversity. And when you look at biodiversity, that's a matter of, plants and all of that. So it would depend on where exactly you are placed within the environmental sector. But also, I feel like most of the things that are required within that line of work can be done by females. I mean, I do a lot of dust fallout monitoring. So with dust fallout monitoring, you have this pole that you need to climb up to in order to put a bucket, right? Which is not something that requires a man really, because I mean, I have hands, I have legs, I can climb up a pole and put a bucket. But I mean, people always try to make everything, try to make women seem like they are incapable of doing anything except I don't even know what. But it's not really, I don't think it's in capabilities, but rather how the perception that people have of women. It's not rocket science. It's just, things that anybody can do. So for me, I don't think women are predisposed to fail within STEM careers.
Because of physique or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I also well, with us in tech, it always has to do with our technical abilities. We never have to deal with saying that we couldn't carry our laptops or something like that. But I think that a lot of women who are in fields like yourself, Veronica, others in mining, others in construction, I'm sure they have to face with being told that they're not physically fit, or they're not strong enough to do this and that. I mean, do you experience that perhaps in chemical engineering with them?
No, not really. I do remember though in my first year of experience working for a glass manufacturing company, where I had to lift 20 kilograms of bags of iron oxide, and also. But there was also a forklift that I could also use as well. But sometimes you needed to lift it with your own strength, and to pour into the furnace mixer before it gets processed. But most jobs, they don't really require your physique. Whatever that I can do, it's something that also my male counterparts can do. but I just took it upon myself to be physically active, so that I'm able to be healthy, just for my own well-being, really, but not really that I will be set up for failure, and just because of my physique and how I look. I mean, we do get women of different shapes and sizes in the industry, and it's not a really big deal. But if someone discriminates against a woman just because of how she looks, and her physique, then that's gender discrimination and inequality.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's move on to our next myth. Money, 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 money. Anyway, so women in STEM are paid less than men. Yeah. This one in particular, right? For me personally, it has been a situation where I found myself leaving work environments because of having to deal with being paid less. And I know the narrative is always that we shouldn't be talking about our salaries. We even have to sign contracts not to talk about our salaries. And personally, I think that's not right, because having to sign a contract where I have to say that I'm not going to discuss my salary, because I know it's got nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with the company protecting themselves from me finding out that I'm being underpaid, you know? And it's just that it's a conversation that is so touchy, where sometimes you don't necessarily find out exactly what the figure is. And I think for me, my personal experience was that, when you're part of the bromance and people are throwing numbers, people are talking, you sit there and you gauge and you listen to these figures and you're like, no, whoa, no, wait, because you listen to the men and the figures they talk about, because there's something about men that I feel that I want us as women also to carry around, which is they have so much confidence in terms of if they see a job post and they only meet 50% of that criteria, they will apply for that job. We want to tick every little box. If I'm missing one thing, I will not apply for it because I want to be perfect to the T. So when you hear conversations where they're throwing around these figures and you're like, no, man, there's no way I'm going to leave for that much because now I'm already here. Because it's just conversation. You're not sharing. You're not necessarily telling me, hey, Notando, I'm earning this much. But you hear it in conversation. And when you hear it in conversation, you're like, this person, I've got more qualifications than them. I've got more responsibilities than them. But the figure that they are talking about is nothing, not even close to what I'm earning. And I think that how do we talk about something that we're not allowed to talk about? And how do we express ourselves about it? Because sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where you go and you're upfront with your boss and you say, look, I have been doing this and that. I've been meeting these KPIs. This is what I'm doing. Can I get a raise? And for you, you will have to scramble around. People will miss their crabs around trying to find the budget, but there's no budget for you. And then what needs to happen is that I know this because I've experienced it, where you need to always go out in the market and find out what actually am I worth, because when you base it on what you're currently worth at the company you're at, you don't necessarily get the correct figure. So when you start engaging in conversations with recruiters, they're like, no, a person of your skill, this is the budget. And you're even shocked there and you're like, what's happening? So for me, this one touches my heart so bad because it's been a reality for most of the time. And we as women have to find ourselves playing catch up. Sometimes you're playing catch up to a number that you don't even know of. So you don't even know who to confide in because you've signed a contract that says you're not allowed to talk about your salary. So who do you confide in so that they fix these discrepancies, because they are there. There's been research that shows that women are paid less, and it's not a South Africa problem, it's a global problem. And I think that it really cuts deep. It really cuts deep. Angela?
Just to touch on it is very, very global. There's a global wage report that was released to say, actually in South Africa, I think about 20 something percent of women, or no, actually women earn 20% less than men do. And also just to be underpaid is such a painful thing. I think, because basically at some point in the year, you are basically just donating your time. Because if you're making, let's say, 90 cents to the dollar or whatever, to the rand, you are literally going to be donating your time from like October till the end of the year. You are working for free. And just that idea on its own is just so infuriating and sad. And I think also just because it also makes you doubt yourself. You're just like, oh, but what am I missing here? Or am I not performing as the same as boys are? Am I doing different things or whatever? So I definitely, even just statistically, this is correct in every field. And like you were saying, men just have this ability to just be so confident that I just crave. They just will say things with their chest. They'll just be like, yeah, I can do this. Whereas you want to know at least 100% before you can say, I sort of know what I'm talking about, So, yeah, this is a tricky one.
Yeah, no, definitely. Buhle?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and if you take it upon yourself to actually even challenge the people who are responsible for the payroll, you are at risk of maybe being eliminated. And I always ask myself, how come? Because the people who are sitting at HR, most of them, it's usually females, and in most companies, HR directors are females, but yet they still continue with such practice. On paper, it's just black and white, but we know reality is that women will be paid less. I mean, I remember an incident when I was a graduate in 2011. My male counterparts, and they were throwing figures. We were talking tax brackets. So from the tax brackets, you can actually see maybe more or less how much the person is earning without really telling them how much you earn. And when our male counterparts, black guy, engineering as well, I couldn't believe that the difference was so much. And yet we came in the same year. We are both engineers. We both have degrees. So what is it exactly? And then I was like, okay, even with the same female that went to the same institution as him, she was getting less than him. But yet they started the graduate program in the same year. And then you ask yourself, and then you also see by the cars they drive as well. I mean, maybe okay, that's taking a little bit too far, but also reality is that you can also see boys are risk takers. They go for, and it also shows that they're earning more, hence they can afford those kind of cars, whereas you just going with a small car, but they can just go for such big things. So those conversations, it's something that not us as women can do, but we also need male to help us and to making sure that there's equality.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember watching this other series. I forgot the name. But this particular girl, she was a software developer. She also had like a team with just males. And I think, I don't know how, but she somehow found out that the ladies were actually being paid less. Even like the tech lead ladies were being paid less than the normal developer gents. And she started to speak to them to say, you know what, let's populate our salary figures onto a spreadsheet, and then we leak the spreadsheet in the organization and see what do they actually do about it. And what you're saying is that, I'm not saying leak information, please don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that I agree with you in terms of saying we need the males to also help us in this narrative, because we can't do it on our own. I can shout, I can do whatever, throw my toys out of the cart, but if I'm not supported by also my male counterpart, who also believes that, you know what, Notando is doing a great job, she actually deserves to be paid even more than to also be had by males. Nomfundo, from your side?
Because this is a topic that we're not supposed to have because it's confidential. I've never had an explicit conversation with my male counterparts regarding pay, and I think that it's very unfortunate, and we need to start having these conversations, as you said, to assist each other, and but what I do know is that even if we come in together, maybe in a program or whatever, and by some luck we're all being paid the same, if ever, you'll find that males are more prone to being promoted than females, and especially in technical, you'll find that they climb the ladder quite quickly, and you're just like, but we're all here, we all arrived at the same time, we're all doing the work. What is it that I'm not doing? Then you want to do more. Now you have to reach yourself to try and figure out that what is it, and it's so difficult for us to even lead these conversations around money. I know a few male friends of mine were able to approach the managers regarding financial, a salary increase. And whenever I think about it, I get so scared, I get so worried. I'm like, what am I going to say? How do I even phrase this? How do I put into, a proper conversation? How do I tell these people that I need more money? Whereas a male could just rock up into a meeting with their manager and be like, listen, I need X amount of money. And for us, that is just an uncomfortable conversation, and we need to find ways to break out of that, and I think us talking about money conversations and salary explicitly is a good thing. It should help us as well, and I think even amongst ourselves, as females, just to have an honest conversation so that we know where we are and we know what kind of conversations we should be having where money is related.
Yeah, very, very true. I actually recently had a conversation with my partner, and he always, whenever I tell him certain concerns about my workplace or whatever, he will always advise to take the stand, and I'll always listen. And it's so easy I feel like for males to always say, take the stand, sit them down, have the conversation, and like you're saying, it's actually causes a lot of anxiety because you're like, where do I start? How do I even phrase this conversation? What if they don't think that I am good enough? Maybe what I'm earning, this is exactly what I deserve, So it's definitely a touchy subject, but I really hope that the more female leaders we get up there who are actually able to, pave the way, send the elevator down to pick us up as well, so that we also get elevated up as well, so that it's not just saying we're changing the narrative, but we're also involved in the decision making and all of that. Because if I'm a female and I happen to make it up there, and I'm seeing that another young graduate versus a young female graduate versus a young male graduate, and I'm seeing that there's discrepancies, me from the top, I should be able to see that that's wrong. Because sometimes you have the conversation with your manager and they'll be like, what, that's how much you earn? Like, they'll be shocked, and you're like, but I'm pretty sure you signed off the budget. So you're having to have those conversations, because some people tend to really be shocked and really be remorseful to say, oh my gosh, I didn't know you earned that little. We'll definitely do something about it. Then they want to be people who are counterproductive over it, because in the first place, I think even sometimes when we do ask for an expectation, actually what I really hope that companies do, if you've got a particular budget, and let's take, I'm underpaid coming from another company, and I say I want X amount, but you have a certain budget for what I'm asking, from what I'm asking for. So add a little bit, because you see that anyway, this was the budget. This person looks like they were underpaid. Let me give them that amount of money, But most companies are like, okay, let's just give them what they expect, whether they're being underpaid or not. It's normally like, you know what, we've saved costs. So I really hope that narrative, we're able to do something and change that. All right, moving on to our last myth. Oh, Veronica has something to say before we go on to our...
Okay, I just wanted to say that this particular myth ties to all the others that we've been talking about. Because if you look at it, the perception is women can't or are not good enough to be in the STEM careers, right? So in any event, they feel like they cannot, the value between the guy and the girl is not the same, which is why they probably give women less money, right? And then we have women that downplaying their capabilities as well, which also adds on to that, because now if you downplay your capabilities and all of that, then it seems like, you are okay with everything. And they also downplay their issues, their concerns, because now you're not able to go and say, this is what I do, this is how I do it so well, therefore I need so much money, because you need it to match. You can't do that because you keep downplaying your capabilities and your responsibilities and all of that, of which guys on the other hand are always, guys will even say they do things that they don't do just for them to be able to make that money. So I think it's an issue of women. There's not enough women, firstly, and the women that are within those roles downplay their capabilities, and they just sort of accept whatever they're given, and they worry about what the people are going to say. What is HR going to say, those kind of things. So I think that's the biggest problem. And if we're able to sort that out, then we can move towards having women being paid what they deserve.
Very true, very true. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I knew the salary one. The money one was gonna be a mouthful. I just knew it. So we've got our last myth, right? And it says it's too late to start, which means that is it too late to start to find yourself in STEM? Definitely. I also think that it's not too late to start. I also think that sometimes a lot of people, when they ask, how did you find yourself in data science? How did you find yourself in analytics? And I'll always say that, for example, data science, for me, I didn't study it in varsity. I may have studied something in data and information, but I didn't necessarily do data science because there's only a select few universities now who are actually holding data science degrees. So we are fortunate to live in a society where now everything is available digitally. I've met people who have never sat down at a university or at a college. I've met people who literally they just sit on YouTube, they watch somebody say, this is how you code, this is how you do this, and that's how they learn the skill. So I definitely think that if anybody is looking to find themselves, whether it's in tech or any other STEM career, I think that it's become so easy now with e-learning that we are able to actually acquire a skill without necessarily being at a university. But I'm saying it's a myth in terms of tech. I don't know, Butle, from your side, from the chemical engineering side, is it possible to actually go through the e-learning channels, or you do need to have a degree?
With engineering, it's quite difficult. I always say it's easier for an engineer, for example, to venture into another field, let's say marketing or accounting, but it's quite difficult for an accountant, for example, to do the reverse. But you will need to be in a classroom to acquire that degree. It's not always through e-learning, something that you can do on the website and so forth. But it doesn't stop anyone from trying, to just understand maybe the basics so that they can be able to be competitive in the field, or to have an understanding of what really happens. I think everyone's dreams are valid. It's never too late to start anything. I mean, look at Mam Mahlangu, for example, the Ndebele Queen. At her age, she was able to have deals with BMW. That's a technical skill, actually, something that's done by hand, and it's not done by robots. So even at her age, she's able to sign deals. She's able to give back her acquired skills, something that she taught herself. So I don't think it's ever too late to start. It doesn't matter the age. You can even go back to the classroom, even if you are 30, 40 years of age. Even in first year, we had students coming from Namibia and Angola. They were already married. They were in their 30s, but they sat in the classroom with us being 18 and 19-year-olds. So I don't think it's ever too late.
Yeah. Angela, from your side?
I think I also agree that it's never too late. I think unless there's like an age limit on the course that you want to take, there really is no age limit to this thing. And also just looking back at whenever we were studying, there were older people within the class anyway, so it really isn't. And you guys were talking about e-learning and learning on YouTube, learning Udemy and all that jazz. I think half of the people in the computer science class learned off of YouTube anyway. So really, I don't think that there's a limit to it. I really don't think so, no.
Also, when in doubt, Stack Overflow, but yeah. Nomfundo, from your side?
Honestly, definitely, it's never too late. As long as you have the passion, the determination, and hard, smart work, you can get it right. You know, you can start any day. I mean, they say it takes 21 days to build or break a habit. So it's just all about what is it that you want to do, and just putting your mind to it and actually doing it through. And consistency is key.
Yeah. No, definitely. Veronica, from your side?
I'd have to agree. It's never too late to start. And from we have a lot of people that are not even, people that studied environmental in the first place. We have a lot of geologists. We have a lot of chemical engineers that deal with air quality and, those kind of things. So I think with us, most people start, well, it's never too late to start, but they don't start like from the onset with environmental. They gradually go into environmental science. So yeah, it's never too late as long as somebody is, passionate, wants to do it, and is determined.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree as well. So we have actually discussed all our myths. And I think that we've had quite an interesting one, from agreeing to disagreeing. And I think it's mainly because each and every one of us has different experiences that we've encountered in our lives. There's things that have groomed us, there's things that have broken us, and we found ourselves back up again. And I think for me, it was very important because one of our key elements as Taking Heals Foundation is to inspire, and it's to inspire through everyday women, right? Because it's very easy to look up to somebody who's not within your reach, somebody who is not necessarily knowing of your circumstances. So it's very important for us from Taking Heals Foundation to actually have these conversations with everyday women who have experienced all these different things and can actually share that and inspire those who actually listen to each and every experience and encounter that you have shared with us. So thank you so much, ladies. I don't know if does anybody have any closing remarks, any last things to say? I'm gonna base it on a hand. I'm not gonna, pick you. Alrighty, Nomfundo.
I just want to say that women can do anything and anything that they put their minds to. And I think that's just the most important thing in anything that they want to do. Just put your mind to it and do it. Like silence the noise of whatever it is that is happening around you or might be against your ideas. But if you want to do it and it is set in your heart and you really want to do it, you can definitely do it. And let nothing stop you. That's all I want to say. And thank you, Nomfundo, for this opportunity. It's been worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomfundo. Is there anybody else who wants to go before we say goodbye. Okay. Right, so thank you so much to everybody who actually tuned in to this particular tech talk. As I said in the beginning, it's definitely one that is close to my heart, because I do feel that as women, we do need to rewrite our own stories. You know, we see a lot of things being said about us, but I think sometimes it's very important for us to actually weigh in on those things that are being said. And also, based on these type of conversations, I think that it gives an insight into the type of workspaces we want to find ourselves in, workspaces that we can actually thrive in, you know, workspaces that really value us, because I think that we share the same amount of capabilities as our male counterparts. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Woo, English. I think I've exhausted my English bundles, but thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Um,
you.
and thank you to everybody who joined in. We will be ending our live. If you do have any comments or any questions, you can still continue to post. And each lady that's going to leave their links to their blogs or their links to their websites, because you ladies are doing amazing things, we'll definitely have that for everybody to see. So thank you so much. Well, see everybody else in our next TikTok. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.